Welcome back, y'all, and happy Tuesday to everybody. This is a Bluechip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the matchup between Tennessee's offense versus Arkansas's defense. Y'all, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. All right, y'all, we're going to start off with the stats like we always do. As y'all can see, the Tennessee's total offense is ranked number 3 in the entire country with 563 yards per game, 7.3 yards per play. Arkansas's total defense is ranked number 47 in the country, giving up 319.4 yards per game, 5.2 yards per play. Now, looking at the scoring numbers, Tennessee's scoring offense is ranked number 1 in the country, averaging 54 points per game. And we are ranked number 60 in sacks given up with 1.5 sacks given up per game. Arkansas's defense is ranked number 45 in scoring, giving up 20.2 points per game. And they're ranked number 73 just as far as team sacks go. They're averaging 2 sacks per game. Now on to the passing numbers. This is probably going to shock some of y'all, especially if y'all are Arkansas fans, but Tennessee's passing offense is currently ranked number 33 in the country. We just have not passed football that much this season because we really haven't had to. So we have 273 yards through the air per game, and we are completing passes at 69%, 9.7 yards per attempt, 9 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. One of those interceptions is not going to be from Nico. I believe that he only has 2 interceptions this season, and one of those touchdowns is also going to be from one of our backup quarterbacks. So if you're just looking at Nico, he has 8 touchdowns to 2 interceptions this season. Now, on to Arkansas's pass defense. They're ranked number 89 in the country, giving up 226.4 yards through the air. They are allowing passes to be completed at 57.5%. They are also giving up 7.1 yards per attempt. They have 8 touchdowns that have been scoring on them, but they also have 6 interceptions. So they do have a good secondary, and we're going to get into that here in just a second. Now, on to the rushing numbers. Tennessee does a great job of running the football. We're currently ranked number 4 in the country with 290 yards per game, 5.9 yards per carry, and 15 touchdowns on the ground. Arkansas's defense is ranked number 21 in the country, only allowing 93 yards per game. That's actually really good. And they are allowing 3.1 yards per carry, and they have also given up 3 touchdowns on the ground. On to the third down numbers. Tennessee is ranked number 22 in the country, and we are converting third downs at 49.2% on 63 attempts. Arkansas is ranked number 25. They are allowing 30.8% of conversions on third down on 65 attempts. Now to the red zone numbers. This is always critical in any game. So is that third down. But red zone, Tennessee is currently ranked number 36 in the country, and we are converting in the red zone at 91.7%. We need to do better than that. Like I talked about yesterday, we need to probably be somewhere around 98%. Now, a big part of the reason for this is whenever teams go for it on fourth down in the red zone and they do not convert. But Tennessee, I mean, we have got to at least come away with some points, but we already know the Coach Heupel likes to score touchdowns instead of field goals. But on 24 attempts, we have 9 rushing touchdowns to 6 passing touchdowns, and we have 7 field goals. And now if you look at Arkansas, they're ranked number 101. They are allowing 92.3% of conversions in the red zone. On 13 attempts, they've given up 3 rushing touchdowns, 4 passing touchdowns, and 5 field goals. On to the turnovers. This is the only category that we'll be looking at today that Arkansas is actually doing a better job at than Tennessee. Tennessee's currently ranked number 59 in this category. We have 3 interceptions and 2 fumbles that we lost. Arkansas is ranked number 44 in turnovers in the entire country. They have 6 interceptions and 1 fumble recovery. Now let's take a look at the key players for Arkansas on defense, starting off with Xavier Sorey Jr., number 10 on their roster. He is a linebacker listed at 6'3", 225 pounds. He's a redshirt junior. So far on the season, he has 32 tackles and 1 sack. But this guy right here, he's probably the best player maybe on their entire team. I would say definitely on their defense, but obviously they've got some other ones that I like a lot. But their linebacking core is what really makes, I think, their entire defense go. And it starts right here with Sorey Jr. He is a guy that, I mean, he plays linebacker, I think, the right way. He can definitely play out in space, looks really good in pass coverage, but also, man, he comes downhill in run support, does a really nice job of just kind of, getting off blocks or making blockers miss him out in space. So he's one that I can absolutely guarantee you our offensive line, our tight ends, our running backs, Nico, everybody's going to know where number 10 is on the field whenever we're on offense. He is a really, really good football player. I think that he is NFL caliber. No questions asked. Now, the next player is going to be TJ Metcalf. He's number 18 on their roster. He's a safety listed at 6'1", 200 pounds. He is a sophomore so far on the season. He has 29 tackles, 3 pass breakups, 3 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble. So young guy, but he's got a super high ceiling. I love his game, man. He's a guy that can play great in coverage, whether it's man, whether it's zone. You never see him just, covering grass. things like that. He seems like he understands what he's doing within their scheme. I haven't seen him bust, really at all. Of course, I don't know this team as well as Arkansas fans do, or, as a staff, definitely. But just from everything that I've seen, he's been in the correct spot. So that is impressive for, one of these younger guys. But also, I think that he does a really nice job coming downhill in run support. Again, man, we talked about how the linebackers are going to be huge for this team. I think that the safeties and their secondary also play a major role in just how dominant this defense maybe can be. And I don't know if dominant is the correct word, but I think that this defense is really, really good. And it's going to present some challenges to Nico and to our entire offense, in this game coming up this weekend. But yeah, I think that he's a player that, I mean, for sure, after this year, hopefully he does have a good season outside of this game coming up this weekend. But he's a guy that I would think that, man, next year, once he's done there, he could potentially be one of those early round draft picks in the NFL. Now let's come on down to Steven Diggs Jr., number 14 on their roster. He's another linebacker listed at 6'1", 234 pounds. He's a redshirt senior. On the season, he has 19 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pass breakup, and 1 fumble recovery. So he's another guy that's just all over the place, makes a whole lot of plays. He's going to be a lot more of that, hey, we think that they're going to try to run at linebacker, bring him in. Now, he's a good athlete, but he doesn't play great out in space. It's not to say that he's bad out in space. I would say that, we talked about Stutzman from OU a couple of weekends ago. He's a better athlete than I think Stutzman is out in space, but he's still, I mean, he's not going to be like a Sori Jr. They also will bring in another linebacker that we won't be talking about today, but he's going to be number 22. He's more the linebacker that they would bring in if they know it's an obvious passing situation. Very similar to number 10 for Oklahoma. But yeah, I mean, he's a guy that you absolutely love what he does. He's a little bit older, so he's going to have that grown man strength. He will be a little bit stronger at the point of contact, just in kind of taking on blocks. You don't see him getting moved out of the way too often. But yeah, I mean, he's, this just kind of shows how versatile this defense can be. They've got a few different bodies, especially at linebacker. And I would say maybe a little bit inside of that secondary too, that they can just try to mix and match. It'll be interesting to see how they try to line up and, how they try to match Tennessee's offense whenever we are spreading them out. Now let's go on to the next player right here. Landon Jackson. He's number 40. He is a defensive end, listed at 6'7", 280 pounds. He's a senior so far on the season. He has 18 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 pass breakups. So he would be their, he's their leading sack guy, but he's not a super twitchy player. He's big. He's strong at the point of contact for the most part. I have seen him just kind of, get moved off of the spot, especially on some double teams and things like that. But he would be a lot more like what we would consider our strong side defensive end in our system. That's more of a run stopper. They don't really have a pass rush guy up front, like not how Tennessee has. Like we have Leos, and we've got pass rush guys at every single position, but they don't have anyone with that extra twitch is my whole point. But he would be the closest thing to it. So we're going to have to make sure that we are blocking him. He's going to play with a really high motor. He doesn't really give up on plays, but I just think that their front four, y'all, not a whole lot for us to be concerned with. Especially having our our entire starting offensive line. But I was talking about our 2 starting tackles. They should be back for this game. Now let's move on to the last player. We know him very well, the Nico Slaughter. He's going to be number 3 on their roster. He does play nickel for them. Listed at 6 feet tall, 190 pounds. We know that he is a senior. He has 25 tackles, 1 sack, 3 pass breakups, and 1 interception on the season. I think that just in watching him, through all of Arkansas's games so far, reminds me a lot of the Slaughter that we've seen, the 2 seasons that he did get some pretty good playing time with our Volunteers. You've seen some really good things, right? You've seen him break up on that football hard. He is going to play hard. I think that he is a dog. Y'all know that I loved, Nico Slaughter last season, but he does also have an issue, I feel like, with getting beat on some double moves. So playing inside of that slot right there at nickel, will we try to double move him and all that good stuff? I'm sure that we will try that. Just because, again, I mean, he didn't look great doing that whenever he played for us. And, he's had a couple of lapses in coverage as well. But, he's been solid. I would say that the Oklahoma State game was his toughest game. And you know that he's going to be talking to the Arkansas defense about, hey, look, this is what the offense likes to do. He'll probably give their offense some of the tricks of our defense, what we like to do on certain downs and distances, things like that. But at the end of the day, just looking at all their key players on defense, I mean, yeah, this is going to be probably the toughest challenge that we've faced up against so far this season, just from a sheer talent perspective, right? Obviously, styles make fights and all that good stuff. But from a talent perspective, I think that this Arkansas defense, especially with their starters, yeah, I mean, they could present some challenges to our Tennessee offense, and we'll see how we can handle that coming up this weekend. Now let's take a look at some of Arkansas's pass rush grades from Pro Football Focus, and not so much the grades. Y'all already know how I feel about that with Pro Football Focus, but we will look at their opportunities and their success rates. So starting off right here with number 0, he's going to be one of their starting defensive ends. He's had 116 pass rush opportunities, and he has won 11.4% of those opportunities. That's going to be one of the better guys on the team as far as the starters go, in win success rate up front for them. Now, he is going to be just like number 40, where he, is a lot more of a strong side at defensive end body. I think he's about 6'4", 275 pounds. Not a whole lot of twitch. So, I'm not really concerned really about any of their pass rush guys, but I just want to show y'all some of these numbers. Next, we're going to come on down to number 5 right here. He's going to be one of their starting defensive tackles. He's had 120 pass rush opportunities, and he's only won 3.6% of those opportunities. So that's not great. Now, this is going to be another one of their starting defensive tackles. He's going to be number 50. He's had 123 pass rush opportunities, and he's only won 3.5% of those. Typically, the tackles aren't going to be great pass rushers, but this just kind of, proves that fact. Just kind of drives it home for everybody. Now let's take a look at the guy that we spoke about earlier, number 40. He's going to be another one of their starting defensive ends. He's had 154 pass rush opportunities, and he has won 9.9% of those opportunities. So as we just kind of talked about here, with their starters, nothing really wows you just as far as the guys up front. But whenever you look at some of the linebackers, like right here, Xavier Sori Jr., he's only had 16 pass rush opportunities, but he is winning 20% of those battles. So he does a really good job as a blitzer. And then also TJ Metcalf, who's number 18, who, that's one of the safeties that we just talked about. He's really good as well as a pass rusher. He's only had 4 opportunities, but he's winning 25% of those opportunities. So just looking at this, you can tell that, the blitzes is probably what's going to scare you more just as far as the pass rush goes for Arkansas's defense. All right, now we've talked about this matchup on paper, or at least we've talked about Arkansas's defense on paper. Let me give you my thoughts just in watching them on film. Number 1, I love their DC, Travis Williams, a.k.a. T-Will. We've talked so much about, maybe Coach Banks is going to end up leaving us after this season. I think that there's a pretty high probability that that does happen. Someone's going to want to hire him as a head coach just because his defense so far is performing lights out. He's really turned our defense around over the past few seasons, and it's gotten better every single year. Who can come in to replace Coach Banks? I think that T. Will should be a prime candidate just because I've heard great things about him off the field as well. I mean, I'm hearing great things everywhere from everybody. So he seems like he's a really good man. I've never met him personally, but his scheme is also extremely similar to Coach Banks' scheme. Whenever you watch Arkansas on defense, I mean, they're doing a whole lot of the exact same stuff where they like to bring the pressure, from the edge with their nickel player. They'll bring it some every now and then with the cornerback or with safeties. They'll bring those linebackers. You see a whole lot of stunts and twists up front, with their line. And they'll also drop their ends back into coverage. So it's just a very, very, very similar scheme. It's almost identical, but I mean, obviously there will be a few wrinkles here and there. I just think that, from a continuity standpoint, I would love to hire T. Will. So just kind of throwing that out there. But again, man, just looking at their defense, it's pretty, versatile. It's pretty multiple. And, they will kind of disguise some looks. It's not going to be anything like what we saw versus Oklahoma, but, it'll just be interesting to see. Maybe they will come out and try to run that 3-3-5. It seems like everyone wants to try to run that versus our offense, but I don't see necessarily any place, on their defense that we cannot attack within our scheme. Pretty much everything that I feel like we would like to do, we can do it. Run the football right at them on some inside zone plays. That should work. I mean, they've got some guys up front that, again, they're more run stoppers, but they're not world beaters. I'm not overly impressed with them at the point of contact. I really like the way that their linebackers flow, but for the most part, they're a little bit undersized. Now, can they beat us to the spot with speed will be one of the questions. I think that we can get back to some of that gap scheme, pulling guys around. Hopefully that will work, but you got to be careful because, again, their guys have a whole lot of speed. And what Oklahoma put out on film versus us, a couple of weekends ago, is that, if you can play with speed, if you can play downhill versus that gap scheme running that Tennessee loves to do, you can have some success and stop the plays before they get started. So will we try to switch some things up from that perspective? Who knows? The biggest thing for me in this game will be our wide receivers, our tight ends getting open, which our tight ends will still have some opportunities, but I don't think that they're going to be as much of a mismatch problem for, Arkansas's linebackers. Maybe their safety some, but I don't think even as much there either as we've seen coming into this game. So this is going to be an opportunity for the wide receivers to really get going, for Nico to show off what he can do. I think that they'll probably try to spy him, just like we're going to do to their quarterback. We're definitely going to try to spy him. So they're going to be trying to spy Nico. And I think that they've got the guys that can kind of stick with him a little bit more. He's going to have to be careful, make sure that he's getting down because, yeah, I mean, their entire team, they do play with a little bit of an edge. They want to hit you. I don't want to say that they're dirty, but I've seen some things, right? And it's not just with the defense, but with the offense too, that you got to be careful in this game. We got to come out really healthy and clean. But yeah, I think that this is a game that we'll see what Nico is made of. He's going to have the opportunities down the field. They've got some good secondary pieces, but like we said with Slaughter, we know, where he's weak at. I've seen them get beat on some, hitches or some deep comebacks where they're coming up and they're just not making good sound fundamental tackles, things like that. Now, those guys have good size. Their entire secondary, it's like prototype size. I love it from that perspective. But, I'm not going to say that they're terrible in coverage, but we should find some victories, right? I think that we'll probably stick to our base like 11 personnel and just do what we normally do. It should look like a normal Tennessee offense. We'll probably try to go tempo. That's something else that I've noticed is that up front, their guys are, I don't want to say that they're out of shape, but I don't think that they're in shape for this sort of tempo, especially, they haven't had a bye week to get ready for us. So when teams don't come off of a bye versus this offense, it's just hard to get prepared at this point in the season. So I would just expect, again, I know I've said this several times, but I would just expect a normal Tennessee offense where we put up, I mean, I don't want to say 400 yards passing, but yeah, I mean, 400 yards passing, you know what I mean? I think that Nico, he should have some success running. I think that he's going to look really, really good. Should be a lot of ESPN, big plays. They'll probably be talking a ton about Nico. Offensive line should hold up versus what I feel like isn't going to be the best pass rush, but they will try to, disguise some blitzes. They do a lot of stunts and twists. So just going to have to be disciplined, period. I think that really the story for the offense and defense is just going to be to play sound, fundamental, disciplined football. As long as Tennessee does that, I don't see Arkansas staying close for too long in this game. I think that it should be over with probably by halftime, just in all honesty. But Arkansas does have some dudes. It's just not a very good matchup, based off of their style and things like that versus our offense or versus our defense. But, we'll kind of get into all that, the 7 keys to the game that will be coming out tomorrow. But those are my thoughts, y'all. Just pretty much straight to the point. I think that Tennessee should be very, very dominant in this game. Nothing that Arkansas can do, in my mind, would present any sort of a challenge at all. I mean, it will be some challenges, but it's not going to be enough to sustain for 60 minutes in this game. But those are my thoughts, y'all. Please let me know yours down in the comment section. And as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Peace.